You know, mental health, there are many cultures that they don't like to give any validation towards mental health or give it credence for various reasons, but it exists. Mental health, there's an old proverb that goes, the head governs the body. Okay? The head governs the body. Without the head, the body cannot function. So if your head is not well, if your mind is not well, how can you function? It's just that simple. Oftentimes we look at people who display bizarre behavior and they're suffering from mental illness, and we'll laugh at them and call them crazy. Oh, that's crazy so and so, or that's this person's off their rocker. Forgetting or not understanding the plight and the pillage that this person has to fight through every day, right? Because they're dealing with a sickness, they're dealing with an illness, they're dealing with having to cope with regular life, quote unquote, regular reality, and on top of that, they have to deal with a mental illness. And depending on how severe it is, some can't even cope or interact in regular civilization. There's certain people that have to remain supervised 24/7 in an institution, in a mental institution, whether it's a psychiatric ward or a prison ward. These are realities that many people face. And then that's one opposite end of the outlier, right? That's one extreme. And then you have another where people deal with depression, but there's different levels, right? But then you have those who fall into a depression and they don't know how to come out of it. They can't come out of it by themselves. They need support. They need help. They take psychotropic medication so that they can balance and have some type of control over their illness. These are not issues that we ridicule and mock individuals for experiencing. Mental health is so much. I just made a video about Kanye West and his talks with the president last week. He disclosed that he was diagnosed as being bipolar, but in addition to that, he was addressing mental health. That term was repeated. He repeated that term more than twice. Mental health. He's living it, so he understands the value. He understands how necessary it is. There are people who don't get treated for fear of being ridiculed. There are people who don't get treated because they feel that they don't have the access to treatment. There's people who don't get treated because they think that people who sit in a therapist's office are crazy and are weak people. No, that is not the case. That is not the case. That's so far from the truth. That's the furthest thing from the truth. So in their attempt to escape reality, because if they're suffering from hearing voices or having visual hallucinations, they may, abuse substances or take drugs to cope. You think certain people like to pop pills or abuse hardcore narcotics and drugs because it just makes them feel good? No. In some cases, they do it to quiet those voices. In some cases, they do it so they can minimize those hallucinations. In some cases, they mix the street drugs with their medications. They'll drink alcohol. With the injectable medications that they take in their arm. They'll abuse alcohol. They'll abuse all types of narcotics just to quell whatever it is that they have to deal with. It's not funny. But, for some people, as long as it's not happening to them, it's okay. Or they become, I guess, desensitized, or they just simply don't care. If it's not them, or if it's not related to them, it just doesn't matter. Meanwhile, the person who you might see every day, they're silently suffering. Because sometimes mental illness is not something that's visible. Disabilities, not all disabilities are visible. Right? It's just something to think about and just... I'm saying this because I remember at one time, we're talking quite a while back, when I used to hear about mental health, I had the same type of mindset. I didn't I didn't take any notice to it. I didn't give it any importance. I treated it like it was pretty much a joke. And it's not. It's not. Not when you have close people in your life who are struggling with mental illness, or you yourself may be struggling with mental illness, and you'd do anything and everything to find a cure or to get rid of it. Because as a result, from suffering so long and not getting treated, you've lost everything too. You don't think being homeless, you don't think that individuals who find themselves homeless, chronically homeless, suffer from mental illness? If you do not think that, you might want to rethink that. Individuals, for example, and this is not a generalized statement, but many individuals who are homeless suffer from mental illness. Look at the connection, people. Make some of these connections. They could be some of the brightest minds, but they don't know how to connect with people because they have some form of mental imbalance taking place. So it forces them to withdraw and become isolated because they can't connect to the whole. So they need to medicate themselves, self-medicate, which is not the healthiest thing to do. It's not the healthiest position to be in. It's not the safest position to be in. Many who suffer have no resources. They have no resources. When you're mentally ill, and you don't have support to help deal with your mental illness, your mind becomes your own prison. So it doesn't matter if you're physically free, meaning not incarcerated, but just the fact that you are struggling mentally every day, you're living in a mental prison. And it could be just as debilitating, because people find themselves alone. Real life issues. All right, folks. I'm out of here. Leave a message if you like the content. Thumbs up, like, share. It's all good. I'll talk to y'all later. Be well.